like to open our Board of Elections meeting, regular meeting, June 21st, 2022 at 10 o'clock a.m. at the Rockingham County Governmental Center. We'd like to welcome those of you who chose to visit us by Zoom. We appreciate you doing so. And at this time, I would like to ask each of us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I will lead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It has been moved properly second that we approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor, say nay. You have approved the agenda. At this time, I would like an approval of the board minutes for May 16th, 2022, absentee meeting minutes, May 17th, 2022, regular meeting minutes, May 17th, 2022, absentee meeting minutes, May 20th, 2022, absentee provisional meeting minutes, and May 27th, 2022, canvas meeting minutes. I need a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I would ask that we approve 16, 17, and 20. I think that we need, Paula and I need to look at 27. I have some questions on that one, and I'd like to defer that to the next meeting if that's possible.
Okay. All right, so Member Schofield has offered as secretary that we approve meeting minutes 16, 17, and 20, and to defer the others until he has time to talk with Paula. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor say nay. You have approved May 16th, May 17th, May 20th, absentee provisional meeting minutes. Let me back up. May 17th, regular meeting minutes, and May 16th, absentee meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I missed who seconded that. Who seconded that motion?
I'll second.
All right.
All right. I don't think she brought me anything. Did we have anybody sign up?
No, ma'am, we did not.
No one has signed up for public comments, so we're just moving forward. At this time, I would like for Paula Seamster to come forward. Come forward to the front. In the middle, in between us. See you. And board members, will you please stand? We have a certificate that we would like to present to Paula. She has made it through 1 year as our director, and we are very pleased with what we have seen her do in the 1 year coming in with not any experience with working with the board, any board of elections. We think she has done a phenomenal job. And when we had our hash rebash, we were planning to give it to her during that time, as we did all the other workers of the polls and the staff. And so the staff felt like they wanted to put yours in something nice and pretty. And I'd like to read what it says. Certificate of Excellence. This acknowledges that Paula Steamster has been recognized for her outstanding achievements and high standards in conducting a fair and honest election during the 2022 primary, awarded by members of the Rockingham County Board of Elections, Ophelia Wright Chair, and it's dated June 15th, 2022. And we appreciate you, and we know that you're going to continue to do the phenomenal job that you have done for this 1 year in April. April was your 1 year, and now we're getting ready to start another year, and we support you, board members.
I think it's wonderful, considering the fact that you had an all-new board and mostly a new staff.
Not expecting this, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a comment relative to that.
Okay.
I was on the previous board, and when Paula's application appeared in front of me, I took a look at it and I said, yes. And I was so proud to be one that voted to bring her to Rockingham County from Caswell County, because she has done exactly what I thought she would do. Thank you.
Y'all got me crying this morning.
Okay. As we move forward, we are at the director's update. Paula?
Okay, I've got a lot to share if I can get my composure back here. That was not expected this morning. For the 2022 primary election update, first of all, we tried some new things this year to try to save money, because in the beginning we didn't know if we would have enough money to actually do everything that we normally do during a primary election. One of the first things we did was we ordered our ballots by style this time instead of by precinct. So instead of having 30 different ballots for the 2022 primary election, we had two. We had a Republican and a Democrat ballot. And the reason this saved us money, we were able to take from the different precincts if there was a need to give to others, because it didn't have that precinct signification on there. That saved us a lot of money this year by doing that. It was labor intensive after the election, but there was no instructions to give us that guidance. That is something that has been passed on to the state board and hopefully is being put in writing. So for the ones that do or would like to go to the ordering of ballot by styles, that there will be some instructions. We did start 2 shifts for the one-stop early voting this year. It's the first time. Those hours are normally 12 hours long. And how we saved money in that was, instead of our precinct officials working 12-hour days every day, working overtime, we split it into 2 shifts where half the crew would come in at 7:30 and they would leave in the middle of the day. The next group would come in the middle of the day and work till the polls closed that night. That saved us money. We also, in the beginning, didn't know if we were going to have the money for training. So instead of having 4 trainings, we did 1 combined training for everything. That was chief judges, one stop, and election day. So there were different things that we tried to do. Do I think they all worked? No. Training is essential to our precinct officials, and we found that out during the rehash bash. There are specific areas that we're going to look at to have more training, such as provisional ballots and other things that they brought up. We did have 11,059 ballots cast for the 2022 primary election, which I thought was phenomenal. I was very tickled with the amount of people that actually showed up for the primary election. I was very surprised that this was the first time for a lot of people to vote during a primary election. A lot of them did not know the importance of a primary election. So we are getting that information out there. We did have an issue with one of our electronic poll books at one of the precincts. That problem was corrected fairly quickly. We did have IT staff respond out there immediately, get everything back up and running, and all the ones that were affected by that did vote and was able to vote. So we did not have anyone that was not able to vote or was hindered in any way. It was a clerical issue. It is something we are going to work on correcting, and hopefully it will never happen again. The only other complaint that I heard about during the primary election, we did have some issues with some electioneers at a couple of the precincts. But other than that, I thought it was a great election. It went very well. We had some positive comments, and we can only improve from what we've learned. And we hope that the 2022 general election has even a greater success. Next is the precinct officials rehash bash end of election meeting. We did hold a rehash bash on June the 14th and 15th at the Board of Elections office. We had 62 precinct officials present. We received a lot of good feedback back from those. At your desk, our Secretary Schofield actually took some notes that day. I've got notes as well, but his notes were phenomenal. And I want to thank him for taking those notes, but you have those notes at your desk. Some of the feedback that we received from the precinct officials were the cages were a huge improvement. They didn't have to lug in and out the ballots and all the supplies. The cages were there ready for them on election morning. They did say we needed some more precinct officials. We have lost a lot of our precinct officials, and we are looking for more precinct officials. And we are going to do a little bit more training in the beginning prior to waiting till right before the election day. We'll start training hopefully as soon as August to try to get our precinct officials ready for the election that will be in October and November. One of the concerns that was brought up during the rehash bash was some traffic issues at the schools, as well as some other things that were involved with the school traffic, the activities and things like that was going on. And we also had a lot of people bring up that the voters were still not sure about where their assigned precincts were. So that's more information that we can learn from and hopefully educate our citizens about, making sure that they do know where they go on election day to vote. And curbside voting was another issue that was brought up, and we're going to try to figure out better ways to help with the curbside voting. But is there anything that y'all would like to add as far as the information or how you felt about the rehash bash end of election meeting?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make an observation. Just in taking the notes and listening to what we heard, it really, two things resonated to me real strongly. One was we need to do a better job of training, which you mentioned. The other is we were understaffed. I think that is extremely important because without the troops, you can't win the war. And if we were really shorthanded, as I got the impression that some of the folks felt like we were, we need to really increase our effort to be sure we're recruiting, getting people in. It was brought up that we need younger people, we need more men, that type of thing. But I think the issue is we really need to focus on that as a critical issue. And we need to train, and we need to train for various jobs. And one thought that came out of it to me was if we train for multiple jobs, we may ought to recognize that in some manner that somebody is skilled in 4 jobs or 3 jobs. That's a pretty common business practice that we have. And so I just bring that up as those were the 2 key things. There were several points I think are worth considering, but those were the 2 majors.
Board members? Other comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. Paula, how many precincts did we get complaints from the staff relative to the electioneers?
2.
2. I would suggest that we take those 2 precincts because that's the only 2, and define an area and give that to the people when they come to set up the electioneering. I fully understand. In my last election run, the police had to be called at one of the precincts here in the county to get their attitude right.
Okay.
So I think that would be, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is defined as to how far they have to be away, and then establish how far it ought to be and mark it. If you have to get spray paint and mark it, you don't go beyond that line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, one of my concerns was the behavior of some of the electioneers towards other electioneers, disrespect, and things that were detrimental, could have been detrimental to some of our candidates. I think that, the chief judges as well as board members need to be more visible on election days, and that way we can possibly help with some of that.
Okay, any other comments? And the comments that you have made are duly noted and well taken, and I agree with all of them. So we will look forward to doing some things to see if we can make a difference.
All right, well, moving on to the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget approval. The Board of Commissioners approved the county's budget on June the 6th, and the Board of Elections budget was approved. I have also put that in the stack for you, what was approved, and I will let you know that the ADA machine purchases were also approved. So hopefully we'll be able to do that after the first of the year, and that may also help with some of our curbside issues as well. But did want to make sure that that was passed on to you. And then the last but not final, the 2022 general election information. There are several things that will be coming up. Our absentee ballots will begin to be mailed out on Friday, September the 9th, and it will be here before we know it. Voter registration deadline is Friday, October the 14th. One-stop early voting begins Thursday, October the 20th at 2022, and ends Saturday, November the 5th, 2022. This board will be getting an implementation plan I don't know when that information will be coming from the state board. It may be on the July meeting or the August meeting. I think it will be most likely at the July meeting that we'll be approving the one-stop implementation plan, but we'll be approving locations. The dates and times are pretty much already established, but depending on the number of locations, that is when the dates and times come into play. The 2022 general election will be held on Tuesday, November the 8th, starting at 6:30 a.m. and will end at 7:30 p.m. And then county canvass will be held on Friday, November the 18th at 11 a.m. And a calendar has been provided, so if you'll put those on your refrigerators or somewhere close that you will have, it goes into detail, and that could be tweaked as more information comes in, but that's all that I have for right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula. Do we have any other comments?
Thank you for recognizing me, Madam Chair. I think one of the questions that Member Totten and myself have is that, are these people adequately, that are doing the electioneering, are they adequately trained as to how they're supposed to greet the public? I think we ought to consider putting a communication out to each one of the candidates and tell them that they will be held responsible for the actions of their electioneers out there if they appointed them to be there. I think somebody has to take control of the harassment that takes place, and quite often in that situation. So I don't know what the time element is, but maybe 30 days before the election.
Okay.
And the one stop.
Hey, Paula, I know you're taking notes on that, and it sounds like a great idea. I do remember as I was campaigning, we did have some issues, and if there were issues when I was there, I went inside and talked with the director, and she came out to let them know that that is not something that she expects to happen in that place. So it just depends on where it's taking place, and I feel like the chief judge could make a difference too if they know about it. If they don't know about it until the whole thing is over with, there's nothing that they can do. So I guess once you fill out your information for electioneers, you can add that making a step in to talk with the chief judge might make a difference as well.
Okay.
I know he or she would not be confrontational, but just saying, please be respectful of one another.
Madam Chair, I'd like to be recognized to make one more comment relative to this situation. I think one of the most important things is that the person that's doing the electioneering for certain people, all of them need a name tag. So that if there is an issue, that's the way you can zero in on who it is and what it is.
I would only add that this should apply in primaries as well.
Oh, yeah.
All of this issue developed within the same party between the friction between candidates. So, or at least that was my understanding of it. I haven't observed it personally.
Madam Chair, it was not necessarily friction between candidates. It was friction between electioneers.
Okay.
Right.
And so if we have no more comments, I would like to call to the board's attention and whoever was on the sunshine list, once you get this general election schedule out, that we have the statute law beside each one of the dates. In case you need to look them up, they're there for anyone and all of us. Just to make sure that we're not just making these dates up and pulling them out of the air. Okay? So if we're finished with Paula's updates, thank you, Paula, for your updates. And I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we adjourn, and we are adjourning. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. We have adjourned at 10:25.